Hello, beautiful people. So I'm calling you from Victoria in British Columbia, Vancouver Island. And today is, I think today is the 8th of March. I'm getting a bit lost track of time, but I think it is the 8th of March today. So what I'm going to show you is a presentation that I've been building up since the inauguration about Trump and his associates. I was just so curious, this relationship between Trump and Elon Musk. It's like and looked like a very likely couple. What was going on here, and so of course I had to get the charts up and look at the charts and look at what was going on between them, and and then of course it was like when they were both in that video where they're signing the agreements and stuff, two agreements, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting stuff. Let's look and see what all these charts have in common with each other, and what do they tell us about this relationship and other relationships that Trump is having. Since I started preparing this presentation, there's been all the stuff about Ukraine. So right at the end, I've done a bit of a comparison of Trump and Putin and Zelensky. Now, I don't have any opinions. I'm like, I don't, I'm not, I'm on the fence, if you like. I'm completely neutral. I don't have a particular bias either way. So this is purely a presentation of the astrology with a little brief, like few words about what that could mean. And what my intention is, that you use it as a form of discussion. You can pause the video and you get the charts and you can discuss it amongst yourselves, or use them and come up with your own conclusions. But I'm just showing you what the astrology is telling us about all these relationships. And because I'm a Hoob astrologer, I use a technique called clicks. And I'm going to describe this to you in the first slide. But it's a way of looking at how people connect with each other, or even how a person connects with a particular situation in a point in time. And it's a really simple technique. However, it is totally dependent on an accurate time. So in one case, Zelensky, we don't have a time. So in that case, I just did basic synastry, where I just look at, where they share things in the signs. But I'm going to tell you now a little bit about clicks while we look at the first slide. So here we can see the charts for Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and the inauguration that happened in Washington. Now, I don't know how much Elon Musk was involved in the actual inauguration, but it is very interesting when you start to look at how his chart corresponds to the inauguration. So what we're looking for with clicks are planets that are in the same house, but also if we were to divide the house into three, in the same third of the house. Now, I'm sorry about the quality of these slides. It was a bit of a faff having to do it on my phone and taking screenshots, so I appreciate that they are a bit blurred, but hopefully you can recognize the characters. So what we're looking for are planets that are in the same house and the same, what you might think of as the decan of the house. Scanning over these charts and seeing that Elon Musk's sun is very hidden, at the back of what I call the cave. It's very hidden in the 12th house. And when people first meet him at the entrance to the cave, I see the chart as a cave where the DC is the entrance. They either meet that Mars node in Aquarius, which is like, I'm doing good for the world. That's where my focus is. That's where my energy is going. Or they might meet the Jupiter Neptune in the Scorpio Sagittarius. And that's opposite Saturn, so that's got a very different sort of energy to it. But it is in his house of creativity, and that Jupiter Neptune does suggest sort of brilliance in that creative realm, whereas Saturn in the 11th house suggests more of a reluctance to be in social situations. Feels a bit uncomfortable in social situations, had to learn how to do it. And Mercury right at the back of his cave on the AC. He is like in Cancer, he wants to communicate the fact that he cares, but it's possibly, doesn't come out very well because it's also square Uranus. And then if we look at Trump's chart, you can see that except for the moon, everything is on the left-hand side behind the MCIC axis. It's all at the back of his cave. He is an extraordinarily private person. He really needs his own space. And to some extent, therefore, Donald and Elon can relate to each other in that way. And particularly because Trump's sun is intercepted in Gemini, so it actually finds it really difficult to get out, even though it's completely wacky. Sun Uranus, he's off node. He's supposed to be weird. It's just that he has to. Thank God he is intercepted. Can you imagine what it'd be like if it wasn't? It would be so in our faces as to be well over the top. Because it's intercepted, he's had to find other ways of bringing it out, and the main way that he does that is probably through Jupiter in Libra, which is all about, just want to make it all fair, just want to make it all nice. When he talks, he's quite calm. He's quite, I want to make everything nice again. I want to make it all, good again. And that Pluto Mars, that power, they're both about the will, and they sit in the 12th house. At the back of the cave, is, especially in Leo, it's almost like this lion that's sort of purring in the back of the cave, and and directing everything through his minions, which could possibly be Elon Musk. And we will look at that in a minute. But first of all, let's look at this inauguration chart. And, the Sun, Pluto, this, like you can't have a more powerful combination to do with power than Sun, Pluto. And of course, it was just into Aquarius, but in the 12th house. It's sort of the power behind the throne, if you like. It's quite in the background and possibly, being put forward as quite a spiritual power. And to do with unity and humanity. But, equally low vibration. It could be very secretive uniformity being orchestrated from the back of the cave. It's up to each of us which way it goes. Jupiter in Gemini on the IC. So the IC is the collective consciousness, and Jupiter to some extent is about royalty, is about leadership, and Jupiter in Gemini, has the gift of the gab. This person has a voice, and he has a voice for the collective. He's not standing up going, I. It's more about, we. He knows how to communicate to the collective for whether, you believe it's for good or for bad. So let's have a look at their clicks. So let's go through one by one, looking at the clicks first between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. So the first thing we have is the moon in the third decan of the second house clicks. That's Elon Musk's clicks Donald Trump's Jupiter in the third decan of the second house. Now, the second house is about their values and their sense of security. And we've got Elon Musk's emotional sort of needs and practical, because it's in Virgo, sort of like resonates with Donald Trump's wanting to be seen as this benevolent leader, this kind sort of person, and is, very much basing his message on that, on let's make everything nice again. So the next one we have is Elon Musk Saturn in the first decan of the 11th house. His Saturn is just into Gemini. And Trump's Mercury in Cancer. So this is the first decan of the 11th house. So this is to do with groups, collectives, communities. And Elon Musk, with Saturn there, he really struggles with that. It's one of his life lessons is to actually learn how to, be with other people, possibly because he thinks might not be bright enough, or he just doesn't know how to be with other people. I mean, he grew up almost undoubtedly with servants in a very hierarchical structure. And Donald Trump, his way of communicating with the masses, Mercury, is through this sense of caring, So Elon Musk, he does have Cancer rising, and he has Sun in Mercury in Cancer as well. They both have Mercury in Cancer. They both have this way of communicating that says they care. But for Elon Musk, it's such a hidden, private sort of thing. It's very hard for him to communicate it. And so in a way, Donald Trump's a really good front for him. And they have similar values there. And then click number 3, which is probably the most important one, is Elon Musk's Sun, which is the essence of who we are. It's our sovereignty. If there's a planet about being a king, it'd be the Sun. And it's also about the will and, the egoic will. And it clicks with Donald Trump's Mars in Leo. The Sun rules Leo. So again, there's this sense of, his will, his drive to be, the king, the lion of the pride. Is this great sovereign being, looking after, his people, his tribe. And Elon Musk's Sun in Cancer, he wants to care. He wants to be the king that cares, but he doesn't have that sort of authority. His Sun's right at the back. He needs a spokesperson to speak for him. And so, he's found this person who's just driven, to be the king of the castle. And it's like, oh, okay, this guy's going to do well. I can ride this train. We've got these 3 clicks going on that go a long way to describe the relationship, the attraction that Elon Musk and Donald Trump have to each other. And in any relationship, you wouldn't want more than 3. It gets too many, then you're like really in each other's faces and on each other's toes, and you're not happy about it. By the way, to do clicks, you need cockhouse system. If we now look at the inauguration clicks, and I've spoilt the surprise because you can see what the answer is on the slide. But, you know, it's Elon Musk has 3 clicks with the inauguration chart, and Donald Trump doesn't have any. So we've got Elon Musk's Pluto in the 3rd house. So this power thing about communicating is on the inauguration's Uranus in the 3rd house. So there's sort of like, we've got to communicate all these new ideas, got to be radical. And it's all about saving the earth, Uranus and Taurus. It's all about, what we can do to save the planet. And then we have Elon's Venus in Gemini in the 12th house. So this sort of, almost sort of communicating it from a sort of spiritual realm, but certainly, very, loves ideas and thinking about things, but does it very privately. Probably reads an awful lot of books, or has done in his time. He probably loves that, and that clicks with the inauguration's Sun, Pluto. This incredible power, and his Venus is going, oh, I like that. I like that. There's power from the back. He finds that very interesting. And the Sun Pluto, because it's going to struggle to actually speak from the 12th house, goes, well, at least we've got a Venus in Gemini. We've got somebody who's really intelligent, who's like really well read and can keep us informed on what's going on. And then finally, we've got the moon of the inauguration in Libra, at the beginning of the 8th house, on Elon Musk's Mars node. Now, Mars node, node is about our spiritual path. It's how he's motivated. And, in the 8th house, it's a bit like, it's all going to be a bit undercover. It's all going to be a bit secretive. But equally, it's, I really feel the 8th house is very much about people of power who are in like collectives, so like lawyers or police or the army or whatever, and he can sort of say that he's a person of power as a scientist. He's not on his own, is he? He's going to have a huge team of people. And in Aquarius, it's very much about this team building and sense of community. And with Mars there, he is going to put energy into it. He's just driven. That's his mission, is, sort of community. It's his weird being in the 8th house. And, it's interesting because the 8th house is often about lawyers, and, he's being influential in affecting laws and things. Might need to wait a little bit more. And of course, all this, all this technology is all really quite secretive. We don't really know that much about it until we're only just finding out now that, that's what it is. That the reason he's so wealthy and the reason he wants to be associated with Trump is because he needs funding for all these incredibly Uranian projects that he's come up with. He needs the funding. And the 8th house is very much about big money, funding. Yeah, definitely. And of course, that then clicks with the moon in the inauguration 8th house. So the moon is about, the heartfelt, moon in Libra. We want to, to do well. We want to look after people and make life harmonious and beautiful for them, but possibly easily manipulated, being the moon. So, Elon, he's got to be clever, isn't he? And, it's very easy for him to communicate how much the world needs this technology, and how, you know, it is for the benefit of the world. I mean, it's interesting, you know, Mars node on Elon's chart there, in terms of the fact that, you know, he is the wealthiest person in the world. You know, how that must feel to be the wealthiest person in the world. I think that must be quite a unique feeling. And then no clicks with Donald Trump. It's almost like he wasn't even there at the inauguration. You know, you sort of look at this and you think, my God, you know, Elon Musk is the power behind this throne. And I think that really showed in the Doge meeting, which we'll look at next. Oh, no, we won't. We're going to look at the USA chart clicks first. And look at that. Donald Trump has no clicks. And Elon Musk has his Pluto with the USA's moon. I mean, the moon, you know, the people are looking up to this power, whether it's for good or bad. They're sort of like listening to this power. You know, they're feeling heart drawn to this Pluto. You know, whether it's power over or whether it's empowering the people, could go either way. And then that Mars node is now on the USA's Mercury Cancer. So he's, you know, the USA, it's all about, you know, caring, you know, it's all, you think about the Constitution, it's all about caring for people, it's about liberty and equality, you know, it says all the right things about caring for everyone. And you know, he can piggyback that in his need for funding for his projects. Donald Trump hasn't got anything. And now let's look at the Doge chart. I based this chart on the time of the announcement. And you can see now that actually both Elon Musk and Donald Trump have clicks with the announcement chart. And in fact, you know, they've even got 2 clicks that they share with each other with the announcement chart. So, you know, this really looks like a very powerful working relationship. So if we look at what they are, the 2 that they share are the first decan of the 11th house and the first decan of the 12th house. So they're both very private, you know, the back of the cave type of houses, but one is all about how they're going to step up there and actually talk to people, you know, and commit, you know, and convince everybody we're all in it together. And the other is much more about, you know, where they're being fueled from in their own personal, you know, when they retreat into the back of the cave, what's motivating them, what's firing them up. So let's look at the 11th house first. So Elon's Saturn in the 11th house doesn't really like being in social situations. And Donald Trump's Mercury in Cancer. It's like, I can do it. I can talk nicely to people. I can be the lovely man that they all like with a big smile. I could do that. And then it connects to this, to the Jupiter in the announcement. This leadership. Jupiter is very much about leadership, but not in a controlling way. You know, it's sort of like leadership through vision, if you like, more about a sense of adventure, or through a common experience where people learn through experience. And because, you know, it's in Gemini, it's very much about new ideas. It's about, being very clever with communication, and definitely the big orators. The two of them together, if you look at that film when they're in there together, they needed each other as orators. And then we've got the first decan of the 12th house, and we've got Elon's Venus in Gemini. So that desire to communicate, that love of being able to communicate, is just, if he can get out of his shell, if he can get out from behind his little boy, with Donald Trump's Pluto in Leo, king of the castle, the desire, the power, and then we've got the announcements, Mars in Cancer. Okay, we'll just show them we care. This is all about caring, and that we're doing this from a place of caring. Well, maybe, maybe not. Who knows? It's easy to say the words, but none of us are perfect in walking our talk. So we can't judge someone else in a very black and white way when we ourselves are not perfect either. That, we frequently do or say things that don't align with each other. And then we have two interesting ones going on, because both Donald and Elon have their own click going on with the announcement chart that they don't share with the other. So now we're looking at Donald's sun, the power, the odd man, who in Gemini, who just blunders on, talking, and it's sometimes you're like, what? Because he just finds it really hard to get what it is that he wants to say out into the world, and it's all fed by his moon at the other end. So, this Sun Uranus, it might be in the 10th house, the house of leadership and authority, but it is so afflicted that it's really struggling. Anyway, that clicks with the announcements Uranus, which is also intercepted. So this is quite interesting that there's this Uranus click going on. It's like there's a vision that Trump can align with in that announcement chart. And he will feel very strongly connected to that vision. And although he says, it's got nothing to do, he doesn't believe in climate change and all that stuff, it's Uranus and Taurus. He at some level, he knows that something has to change at a physical and practical level. And then Elon and the announcements. We've got Elon's Mercury in Cancer with the announcements Moon in Leo. So we think about that Moon in Leo in the first house. It's like this inner child, just look at me, look at me, look at me. But it's at the back of the cave, so it's having to really wave and shout, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm here. Oh, I know, I'll put a little boy in front of me and then you'll see me. Because you'll all be staring at the little boy, which of course is what we all did. And then Elon was able to use his little boy as a sort of, ventriloquist dummy to be able to share what it was, about his vision for caring for everybody. And look how I care. Of course I care for my little boy. Of course I care for the future. You think I want his future destroyed? Of course not. Care about it. Imagine a woman bringing her child not only into work in the White Office, in the White House, but actually having to do a live stream that was going to go all over the world. And she was like, sorry, I just lost the babysitter. I've got to bring him into work with me. You know, very interesting tactic. So definitely something in this collaboration that could go either way. It looks fundamentally like at a high vibration, it is very much about caring and wanting to help transition this world into a more technological, admittedly, way that they believe will benefit everybody by completely rearranging, mainly through rearranging the money system. And of course, you know, that's one area where Elon Musk is very interested in big money. So let's now look at, because then they signed another agreement on the 18th of February. Now, I actually didn't realize that Elon Musk was present at this meeting. Originally, I just looked at Donald Trump's chart with the announcement chart of the executive orders. And then when I was Googling that to find out if Elon Musk was involved, I was like, oh, yeah, there he is. He's there too. And as you can see, they still have a lot going on in common. So they've got this green, this first decan of the 11th house is like a recurring pattern because we see it here again in the announcement. So we've got Elon Musk Saturn in the 11th. Oh, I don't really like being in public. And Donald Trump's Mercury in Cancer in the 11th. Oh, I can tell everybody I love them and care about them. With the announcements, Venus in Aries. Now, Venus means that it's going to come over in a loving, caring sort of way. It's not going to be put over in a nasty way at all, even though it's in Aries, you know, which is ruled by Mars, the god of war. So, you know, we know that one of their things is that they want to stop wars. And so, you know, Venus could be going into these situations as a peacemaker, going into these war situations, and you know, they're using each other as a support to bring peace. That could be one interpretation. Equally, another interpretation could be that they are warmongers and they absolutely love war, and that is their pure intention, is to, they just love creating more trouble. Don't know. I leave that with you. So Donald Trump, his click with the announcement chart is his Sun Uranus again, but this time it's with Saturn in the announcement. Saturn's not as easy to get on with as the Uranus. This is more about actually, you know, I do need to stand up and have some dignitas about me, you know, some credibility about me. But again, that Saturn in Pisces, oh no, it's not intercepted. And one of the ways he can do that is to sort of step more into his sort of spiritual mastery, which he certainly can get into that in a physical sense. You know, he can definitely step into his power physically. And that's, you know, quite a Sun Uranus on Saturn, and especially intercepted because he doesn't actually have to say anything. He just has to stand in a certain way, and it just oozes authority and leadership. But is this also interesting that when he sits behind his desk, he sometimes tends to hide behind his desk? I think that's more, you know, when he gets into his 12th house stuff, which the other click that he has, I don't know why I put that one in actually, sorry, the click that he has with Elon Musk, because we already know about that, so I don't know why that's still sitting there. Should have taken those blue ones out, because there isn't a corresponding one in the announcement chart. And then Elon, his connection with the announcement chart, his Mercury in Cancer, you know, wants to do everything to help people, to be caring, you know, but he struggles to get that out, except in his own little world when he's talking to his dolly or his babies or his cat or whatever. So he needs that leadership Jupiter in the announcement in Gemini, because even though it's coming as a leadership from behind, it's something that's pushing the whole chart forward. The fact is that it has a skill in communicating, it has a power of communication that he doesn't have, and that lends to him. So I think my overall conclusion from this would be that obviously both Elon Musk and Donald Trump are using these executive orders as a way of fulfilling some of their own needs, but that as a team, there's something about that sense of community, you know, that we're all in this together, and we're going to fight for what it is that we love, and we're going to communicate what it is that we love. And in the meantime, Elon Musk in the background is going to be the master of technology. This is my last chart, and I've only just done this today because the others I did quite a few weeks ago, and I haven't really been following it much since then, so I don't know what the meetings have happened or anything like that. But I thought it might be interesting to look at the charts of Putin, Zelensky, and Donald Trump, and what do they have in common with each other. We don't have a birth time for Zelensky, and even Putin's a bit dubious as to whether it is 9:30 a.m., but I'm going to go with it anyway because it does look quite interesting. So because I don't have a birth time for Zelensky, I always do the charts the midday if I don't have a birth time, which is why the sun looks right at the top of the chart. And in those cases of I can't do clicks because I don't know where anything is in the houses, so then I will look at more classical synastry, where we look at what planets and signs they have in common. So the next side, the black circles are clicks, and the blue, green, and red are synastry. But let's just have a quick look at a few things that stand out. Putin's chart, look at that Sun, Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, all in the 12th house. I mean, you know, that guy's either been holed up in a hermit cage for a long time, or, you know, he's definitely a recluse, and he needs everything to be really nice around him. But Pluto on the MC, you know, is at worst, that's going to be a dictator. At best, it could be a very inspired, wise master that has the charisma to carry it off. And it's on his south node, so you know it's not something he's not done before. And it may be that he's here to right some wrongs this time. With the North Node on the IC, you know, he can't help himself but make every decision based on the collective consciousness. And our North Nodes are almost not a choice. You know, when I say to people, well, the house of your North Node, which is how I work, you know, if you ever have to make a decision, you just go with the house that it's in. So his North Node in the fourth house, it has to always be which of these choices is best for my people, for my history, for my family, for my home, for my homeland. And, you know, whether he does that consciously or not, at some level he will be doing that. We can't help ourselves. So that's all very interesting, and those are like the key things, except remember this eighth house, first decan of the eighth house that we've had a bit of focus on through Elon Musk, because that's where his Mars node is. Well, Putin has his moon there. So there's going to be a bit of a connection going on there between Putin and Elon Musk, and especially because, you know, Elon Musk has stuff in the 12th house too. You know, they're both a bit reclusive. In fact, Elon Musk even has something in that first decan of the third house. So these two have got quite a lot going on with each other. How they're using it, who knows? And that moon of Putin's is unaspected. So his heart could be well and easily persuaded by moon in Gemini by a clever speaker. Hmm. And then Zelensky. So obviously we don't know the orientation of this chart, but whatever it is, it's very one-sided. So there is going to be a whole section of his life that he will do his best to avoid one half of his chart, because he feels too vulnerable there. He feels too uncomfortable there. He doesn't want to go there. His moon is in Leo. He also has, you know, ideas of grandeur and sovereignty. And, you know, Venus Sun in Aquarius, his highest ideals are for community, for the people, for freedom, very much, especially with Mars opposite driving that. And it's still Mars in Cancer, maybe, can't quite see whether Mars in Cancer or not, you know, that driving for the people. And Jupiter in Gemini. So there's another theme going on here. This sort of ability of leaders to communicate, to have the gift of the gab. So let's have a look at the clicks and the synastry. So we only have one click, and that is between Putin and Donald Trump. And it's basically their two power centers, if you like. It's Putin's Sun, Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, the power behind the throne in the 12th house, and Pluto, and Donald Trump's Pluto in Leo. Again, that power at the back of the cave. And Putin's being in Libra, you know, there's this Libra emphasis quite a lot about harmony and balance and equality, with Donald Trump's ability to be this lion, you know, to be this impenetrable force that is basically the king of the jungle. They're using each other there, and I would imagine that Donald Trump values Putin's intelligence. You know, Sun, Saturn, Mercury. I'd imagine he is very intelligent and able to communicate it in a very calm sort of way in Libra. And then we have the synastry clicks. So if we look at the green clicks first, So Putin has Mars at the end of Sagittarius. And Zelensky has Neptune in the middle of Sagittarius. And Donald Trump has a moon at the end of Sagittarius. So they all have this very Sagittarian influence. And Sagittarius, I feel, is, it's very much it's about justice, for one thing, isn't it? And freedom and passion. And for Putin, is that Mars is like driving energy. It is literally, the archer on the horse. The knight of wands. And for Zelensky, it's Neptune in Sagittarius. So there's this idealization of freedom and and this passion for, yeah, you always can see like, the red energy, can't you? This idealism. And then for Trump, it's his moon, it's his, his love of excitement and freedom and travel and pushing boundaries and learning more. So the three of them, they share that with each other. And then Putin and Donald Trump, they both have these significant placements at the end of Gemini, where we've got Trump's sun Uranus and Putin's moon. There's a head-heart connection going on here. When people have a sun moon in their own chart, there's always this, this connection going on. So there's this, in Gemini, it's like these ideas, and with Uranus, it's, sort of like wanting to transcend something, transcend some old ideas. And Putin with Moon in Gemini, he's able to communicate. He's good at communicating in the 8th house. And so, Donald Trump might well be using Putin as a front as well to communicate what it is that, his own visions. And then finally, we have something that they all three have in common, and that's this Libra energy again. Putin's Sun, Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, all in Libra. Zelensky's Pluto node in Libra, and Donald Trump's Neptune, Jupiter in Libra. These are not irrelevant planets. These are all significant movers and shakers. They are either divinely inspired, or they can be the work of the devil. It's up to each individual how they choose to use that energy. But this Libra emphasis. Now, I mean, for Librans, the hardest bit for them with their signs is not being able to make decisions. They just can see all sides. But that's not something that we're really picking up on, I don't think, in the communication between these three. I think that at some level, they're genuinely looking for some sort of balance. It's just a matter of whether I think really what it boils down to is the fact that they all have to come out looking good. They all have to come out looking like they've won. They all have to come out feeling in harmony with the decision that they've made. And, they've all got strong Leos. And so, their pride needs to be kept intact. But, there's such an emphasis on the Gemini energy as well that we're not hearing them shouting and screaming at each other. we are hearing a lot of communication, or are hearing about a lot of communication. And so my personal opinion is that, the best we can do is focus on these people, um, i- aspiring to the highest possibilities that these charts have to offer, the highest vibration that they can achieve, because they're certainly all powerful people with charisma who, in various relationships, are choosing to work together and have become the focus of the world in a way, and are dividing people like nothing else. Again, more division. So my personal feeling is to rise above that and to focus on the highest vibration possible that we can see, the highest potential. Dane Rajah said that a chart is about pure potentiality, it's about the alchemy of the soul. And, what is the highest potential that we can see in these charts? And how can we focus on that highest potential and therefore support best outcomes? So that's my little penn'orth. So love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Love to hear any comments that you have on this, any feedback. If you want to subscribe to my channel, I often do presentations. And thank you. And goodbye from Victoria on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. Love you all.